Welcome to Driving the Cbus, featuring insights from individual contributors from all corners, nooks, and crannies of the Columbus, Ohio region who are making a marked difference in the cultural, business, arts, and quality of life that makes Cbus home. And each podcast will get real with those that make a difference in our community, get their history and insights on our hometown, and discuss some of the new and exciting things that are happening, but more importantly, how and why they are happening. Our goal is to get to the why of our evolving and eclectic environment, which we all share by the people driving the bus. Today we have an accomplished, kind of a Columbus rookie with us today, and that is Mr. Kenny McDonald. So Kenny's been here in town for over a decade now, and he's doing good work. He served as President Chief Economic Officer with Columbus 2020 since the organization's inception in 2010. He has over 20 years of regional economic and development management consulting experience. He's worked in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, New Mexico, kind of all across our great land. Kenny's worked in a variety of industries, including automotive, biotechnology, aerospace, pharma, advanced electronics, and lots of other stuff as well. He serves on the governance committee of the International Economic Development Council, the IEDC, and is committed to developing the profession to meet the challenging needs of business and government. He also serves on numerous local boards and of directors and is frequent speaker on the subject of regional and economic competitiveness. So with that, welcome Kenny McDonald to Driving the Bus. Kenny,
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Good deal. Well, there's lots happening. Now, you came to us. It's been, you started before 2010 because you were setting the stage and making the bed, right? So you got here in 2007 or something like that?
Well, actually, a lot of people made the bed and did a lot of the hard work to put the organization together. And I actually moved here in August of 2010. So I've been here 8 years now.
8 years. Okay, yeah. Good deal. Well, it's been a very successful 8 years. I know that. Columbus has recovered well from the recession, the Great Recession back of 2008 to 2010. And you drive a company called Columbus 2020. Tell me about Columbus 2020 in a nutshell. What's the elevator speech?
Well, we're the Regional Economic Development Group, so we do four things. One is we work with our local companies across the 11-county region to make sure that they have the tools in place to grow, and they get resources, connect them with resources, workforce resources, things like that. We attract companies from around the world, so about 50% of our clients come from outside the United States. And we are typically working on about 130 or 140 clients at any given time. Third thing is we support the entrepreneurial community and the venture capital network we have in the region in a variety of ways. And the final thing we do is we just give that feedback to our elected officials, our business leaders about what it takes to win and lose in this economy. Thankful to say that this region is having its best decade of growth ever. And we're glad to be a part of that and a steward of it, but also just be surrounded by public and private leaders that are just doing phenomenal things.
And making investments in their community. Yeah, that's what it takes. Let me shift gears, go back to when you decided to come to Columbus. You were in Charlotte, North Carolina, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And what made you decide to leave? Now, you're thinking, Charlotte, North Carolina, this guy's nuts. Why would he come to Columbus, Ohio? Although we are to the tropics of the Midwest. Why would you come to Columbus, Ohio, from Charlotte, North Carolina?
Two big reasons. If you're an economic developer, it's kind of an interesting group of people. We all know each other around the country, and we know the locations around the world. I have a strong belief that the 30 to 40 cities that are between a million and 3 million people are the best economic athletes in the country, and so that's the kind of community I want to be in. But two main things. One is what I thought was the best organized business community that I had ever seen. That has absolutely come true. Not only are the big companies involved, but big corporate 500, Fortune 500 companies, but leaders like yourself at Heartland and hundreds of others around our 11 counties lean in, and they're part of making this region great. And the second thing is the product is pretty fantastic. And I felt like it just had, the world needed to know about it, and that there was a lot of upside to it, and it hadn't properly been placed, almost like looking at a company that hadn't been marketed well, and had not been looked at in a long time. And I wanted to put us in the boardrooms of great companies around the country and around the world, and we're certainly doing that every week now, and it's working.
So when you said a really cool term there that I'm going to put in my vocabulary, economic athlete. Now, who else would be, who are the peers would be in economic athletes like Columbus?
Columbus is, often described as a state capital, large university surrounded by, a cadre of great companies. And I would say that's a good company to be in. Austin, Texas looks a lot like that. Nashville, Tennessee looks a lot like that. Raleigh, North Carolina. And in fact, we do compete directly with those locations. And those cities all have that same profile. That metro area is between 1 million, 3 million people. And we always say big enough to have scale and have everything that you need to live a great life and have great economic opportunity, and small enough that you can know everyone in town and get things done, and that relationships still matter. And we're absolutely sort of in that Goldilocks location as a metro area.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. I just the other day. Well, no, that was 7 months ago. About 7 months ago, I was in Port Columbus, and actually it was last fall, and I'm sitting there waiting to get on a plane, and I met this other couple at the Chili's that's in the Southwest Terminal over here, know. And so I'm talking to them, and we're having a cocktail, getting ready to. I'm flying out, and they are just coming in, and I said, "Well, what where are you from?" And we're from Boston. I said, "Oh, do you have business here, or what do you have family?" And they said, "No, we're here for vacation." And I just thought to myself, "What are you talking about? You're here? You're in Columbus, Ohio for vacations?" Because, oh yeah, are you kidding me? You guys have one of the most diversified arts, scene in the Midwest. You have excellent hotels. We've got restaurant reservations at like 5 or 6 different places. We're going to be here for 4 days, and we're going to take in the zoo, and we're going to do a couple other things. And I said, "You got to be kidding me! You live in Boston?" She goes, "Yeah, but this is we can do this for half the price than living in Boston."
It's a common story that people from outside the region have to remind us how good we have it. And how many assets we have. And it's both an advantage and a disadvantage. I always say that we need to be bigger advocates to the person sitting next to us on the airplane and the people that visit us, and tout the unbelievable economic development assets we have here, but also those cultural assets that you just spoke of.
Yeah, it's a rich environment for sure. Now, you also spoke in your last, answer to my question about relationships. Now, obviously, when people look at Columbus 2020 and you're out there, preaching about Columbus and you're telling the rest of the world that, the other side, probably the larger side of what you do is fostering relationships between the municipal entities, the state entities, Jobs Ohio, the people coming in. Tell me about how you shepherd that herd of cats in the same direction to get to yes for these folks that want to call Columbus home.
Well, we have a great collection. We have 29 cities, 11 counties, a number of townships and villages across our region, and there's one common theme: is that everybody wants better quality of life in their communities. They want to continue to grow and live in great communities and have great schools. And there's also a common understanding that the way you get there is to grow the economy. And that's what brings everybody together. And we've also, I think we all well understand the concept that if a client comes in here and lands at John Glenn Airport, that Columbus, the greater Columbus, is everything within an hour of that airport. And they want the talent pool within that. They want to look at the physical assets and special things around the region. But it's all one thing the farther you get away from home. And everybody sort of bought into that concept. That doesn't mean we try to dilute that. We want to have great communities individually. But we got a great collection. Everybody is kind of pulled together in a common cause.
And so that common cause, before Columbus 2020, we actually had, we didn't have an agreement between the suburbs. And so we had people taking this company and moving them across the line. And there was a lot of give and take. And we were just pushing jobs around the MSA, right? We weren't growing new jobs. Nobody was telling our story. Did you play a part in that peacemaking process, and how important was that to us moving forward with telling the story and then being able to strategically attract new talent to the market?
Well, it's all about growing the pie, right? And if everybody has the feeling that they're just dividing up what exists and it's never going to get larger, then I think that the knives come out, across these taxing jurisdictions and things like that. But that's certainly not the case in Central Ohio now. We're growing the pie all the time, and I think that the professionals certainly on the ground in economic development, but even, and maybe more so, the elected leaders really see that too. And that fosters great things and a lot of cross collaboration. In fact, it isn't just that they're, getting along, it's that they're working together. And in transportation and in education and those things that cross boundaries every single day to make a regional economy actually work. And we went well beyond the fact of just having kind of a mutual agreement. We see collaboration. We see people stacking hands, locking arms to go get the work done. And often those communities are actually on the planes with us, visiting companies around the world together. And whether they're touting their own location or they're touting our region or Ohio in general, everybody understands the value of doing that and telling our story.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you're out talking to these clients and potential clients, what do you lead with? I mean, what is your first? I mean, you usually, I'm sure that you got, so you're after Austin and before Raleigh, and you so it's a whole talent. It's like America's greatest pop star. What's the name of that show? America's Got Talent. So right, you guys are just one after the other coming into these people, pitching them, I'm sure. And so what do you lead with when you come in? Do you have some? What's your pitch? If you came in and you were going to sell me on Columbus, would you stand on your head and juggle, or what's the first thing you say?
Well, I'm glad it's not a beauty contest. I don't think I've done that. But talent is at a premium these days. All of these great cities and metropolitan areas that we compete with are great talent bases too. And it's not just about higher education in Ohio State, although that's an enormous advantage for us. It is also about what we're producing out of our community colleges and our technical schools and our pipelines within the communities that we have. So we got to have strong schools. We have a great story to tell there versus the rest of the world, relative to the rest of the world. The second thing is we have an unbelievable location. I still think that the greatest discretionary income in the world still exists east of the Mississippi in the United States, and we sit in the middle of that. And within a day, we reach over 60% of the business population of Canada and the U.S. And that's not just for logistics. That's also for day trips on a plane into New York and Boston and D.C. and Atlanta, Chicago, all these places that you can't just do that everywhere. And the final thing is you have all of that, and you have that delivered at a really good value. So Ohio and our communities in Central Ohio in particular are really competitive. Taxes are low for what you get relative to the places we compete with. And so talent, access, value with a huge emphasis on our talent base.
Gotcha. We also have pretty good connectivity here, right? I mean, so we're on the internet backbone. I said that to some folks the other day that are very well versed in Columbus, and they just never heard that before. They never heard that we're on the internet backbone. Talk about our ability, our throughput. That's so important to these larger businesses that are coming, that are doing business on the web globally.
Well, keeping pace with infrastructure is a lot more than roads and bridges, just like you just said. So we have state resources like OrNet. So all of our schools and universities are tied to our medical campuses on 100 gigabyte network that doesn't exist in any other state. And then just more broadly, our tech ecosystem in the state is much, much larger than people would think. I mean, you're seeing successes of companies like Cover My Meds. You're seeing, people getting capital not only from our region, but you're seeing Silicon Valley venture capital coming into some of the companies we've invested in for the last 5 to 10 years. And the fruits of investments in Ohio for a long time are coming to fruition as that talent base wants to stay closer to home. And quite frankly, that those locations in Silicon Valley and Boston become quite unaffordable if you're going to scale a company. And you're seeing a return to the Midwest and to communities like Columbus where there is a great quality of life, but again, the scale and the assets to do whatever you want in the world, including entering global markets and everything from a location like this. It's really today's economic culture is actually playing to our favor as a community.
Gotcha. Now, and you obviously you brought your family here with you and that kind of thing. So you are a family man. What do you like to do with your family on the weekends and all that when you're not traveling abroad or to China or to Germany or any place else trying to sell Columbus?
Well, anything I can with them, anything they'll let me do with them. But I have 3 children. We live in New Albany, one of the fantastic communities we have in Central Ohio. Great schools across our region that kids take part in, and if we're not doing ballet or soccer or crew or something like that, you can usually find me driving around this region or the state somewhere with a travel team and some sport with 3 kids.
And what sports they play?
My son is big in Westerville crew, loves it, and a great crew culture across Central Ohio and Dublin and Upper Arlington and everything. Great city for that. And my daughters are in ballet.
This is crew rowing, right?
Crew rowing.
Yeah, not soccer. This is rowing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Now they enjoy it and take part in all kinds of things, and schools first and foremost.
That's great. Yeah, you got to get that education. And New Albany has excellent schools, just like a lot of the systems do here in Central Ohio.
You bet. So,
shifting gears now to maybe some of your likes and dislikes personally about Columbus. Let's start with the likes. What do you like best about our town? You as a person, family man, Kenny, not Mr. McDonald. Tell me what you like. Personally best about town.
I grew up in eastern Montana, which in some ways is a very similar culture. There's both there's sort of a Midwest ethic there. People love sports, and of course taking advantage of OSU sports is something we do regularly in almost everything everything they do. I love the fact that you can go to a different neighborhood, a different part of our metro area, and experience something totally different almost every weekend if you wanted to. Different restaurants, different culture, whether that's Dublin or Clintonville or New Albany, or I was in Westerville today earlier, and the restaurant scene there is exploding. There's all kinds of new stuff, and it just keeps getting better. And so there's a lot of layers to that onion that keep getting unfolded, and you could live here a long time and not get to all of them. And that's just not true everywhere. I mean, it's all over the place. So we love that about Columbus. And quite frankly, we just love the people here. I always say that our modesty is our greatest strength and our greatest weakness. I love that people are hardworking and modest. I wish they'd just tout us a little bit more as they move around the world, as we were talking about earlier. But just awesome people.
And what about some of our challenges? If you had to identify some challenges locally, what would they be?
Well, we're growing really fast, and we don't want to repeat what we consider not mistakes, but what some other cities have not done as they've kind of broke through some of these growth ceilings. So, our commute time is about 22 minutes for the average person in Columbus these days. Austin, Texas used to have that same commute, and now that commute's 45, 50 minutes. We have to both keep pace with our infrastructure, our physical infrastructure, but we got to find new ways to move people around our region constantly, and that's what the whole Smart Cities initiatives are about. We have to find unique technologies and We have to open our mind to look at different ways to do that. If we don't do that, that's going to end up being a liability, not a strength. We got to continue to grow our air service, although we have a phenomenal airport that I would say, again, I could point to all those places you can do a day trip and be home for your kid's soccer game after having a meeting in some other city. Very few places, including those cities you visit, can do that, but it's something we have to continue to grow. And then we just have to double down. I don't think that we can ever be satisfied with education. If we believe what I said earlier, that talent is the new competitive advantage, then we can't have enough of it. We can't invest enough in it. We can't reform it enough. We can't challenge ourselves enough, particularly in our public schools, to make them the best in the country.
Yeah, we have a real challenge with our Columbus schools. It just seems they hit one barrier after another, whether it's items with the school board or things that they have. Obviously they're a little disenfranchised in certain areas of the city. They have a very diverse culture, a diverse population to deal with, but they need to help themselves a little bit as well. I think to make the city a little bit better. I would agree.
We'll take clients directly into those schools, and we're always proud to do it. I mean, we're proud of that diversity, and on a relative basis, every city has those challenges. I get actually more excited about it than I do challenged by it, because I see the leaders that are working on it, and I see a real recognition that is where we need to invest dollars, and I see it happening. We all wish it would happen faster, I think, and that those challenges wouldn't exist and just go away. But that's not going to be the case anywhere else. Not going to be the truth in Columbus either. And we got to keep rolling up our sleeves and making it happen. And we got to think differently about it than we've ever have in the past, quite frankly.
Well, it's reassuring to hear you say that they're working on it, and you have confidence in the people that are working on it. And we all need to get behind that. I don't care if you're in the suburbs or out in Licking County or whatever. I mean, the center portion of the city is the central business district of the region, and we have to make sure that is successful. If we get that right, along with the current expansion that's going, we continue jobs. I mean, there really could be an even higher level of economic achievement than we're experiencing today.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. How about the Hyperloop? Is that for real? Is it going to happen? Is it? What do they think about that? I just can't even imagine being in Chicago, like working in Chicago and living in Columbus. And now there's people that do that today, but they take an airplane to Midway, right? And
right.
Southwest flight, $69 one way or whatever. They're doing that. But tell me, is that a reality? Is that something that's going to happen, you think?
It's interesting to study these technologies, and whether it's autonomous cars, or it's again, new apps that are moving people to and from their jobs, or it's technologies like the Hyperloop. I think that we're going to see more technology changes in the next 5 to 10 years than we've seen in the last 40. We've lived through a lot, since the early 90s, with the internet, the explosion of the internet, and the change of the business models and stuff. But I think we're just at the precipice of all kinds of things happening. Hyperloop is a great example where technology is not the challenge. That's a simple technology that just is scaled. Now, I may ask you to be the first one on it, and I'll be the second one. But I think that stuff is going to happen. And I think the question we need to ask ourselves is, why not? Why couldn't it be happening in the Midwest and in the Columbus region first? No sense we don't always have to be a late adopter of everything. I think we got to lean into some of these technologies because we're as good as anybody. We have the resources, and we have a lot of people that believe in this stuff, and it's happening. We have the infrastructure to do it, and we wouldn't be on these lists.
Well, I think it'd be a heck of a lot easier to build it between Pittsburgh and Chicago going through the Columbus than on the West Coast, where there's earthquakes, and the South where you've got border issues and hurricanes and flooding and everything else. I mean, it's probably a good place to start, if any, right? I mean, we probably attract a lot of these data centers to town too, because we have such a stable weather environment. People wouldn't, they don't appreciate the 50 and 60 degree swings that we have day to day here or there. But at the same time, though, it's relatively mild, relatively calm type environment for that kind of activity.
On a relative basis, so this is one of the safest places in the world to put your mission critical facilities, and that's why you're seeing Amazon and Facebook and a whole bunch of other companies, including our own, putting their mission critical facilities here that can't go down. And quite frankly, that it's life or death of their business dependent on it. They choose to put those here in Central Ohio, and I think that speaks volumes. That's better than any sales pitch I can give.
Oh yeah. And especially with their teams as qualified as they are, knowing their business, select this place.
Yep.
Now you brought up Amazon. I was going to bring up Amazon. You started it. I'll finish it. How you the H2 their Amazon H2? I guess it's the HQ2.
Right.
Is coming to a theater near you, someplace in America. Yeah, they put out the list of 20 cities, and then like a week and a half later, everybody's making fun of Columbus. Well, that kind of tells me that we're maybe a favorite in that whole deal, or at least be in the top 5, right? I mean, because if we didn't matter, why would you throw rocks at us? Why you waste your rocks throwing them at the guy that doesn't matter? What kind of shot do we have at that? And tell me what you can. I know you can't tell me everything you know, but what do you? I don't even know if we'll air this before they make their decision and we're going to be celebrating. But tell me what you think.
Well, I'll back up a couple steps and just say, we consider that project a national exercise, which I think has had some real benefits to us in Columbus as well. So it's a compliment to our region, the capacity we have, and the financial health we have as a state and a region, that they would take a look at us and put us on a list of 20 out of 238 communities that sent the initial proposals to them. I would also say that every business leader should look at that initial RFP that they posted, because it is a blueprint for what a 21st century global metro area is. And it is investment in talent, in education, investment in infrastructure, all the stuff that we've just been talking about on this podcast. And it is all the things that we're actually slowly achieving in the region. So I've challenged every business leader to say, what would be on your list that would be different. But this is how these large companies and these tech leaders, not just them, are looking at the world, and that can be real educational for all of us. Of course, we don't know how things will turn out. I will say that in every project, and that includes small manufacturers anywhere in our region, logistics operations, small tech shops. I think we have an awesome team that plays to win and tries to go after these things, because we owe it to the people here that could go to work and have careers in these great companies. And Amazon's no different. We do consider Amazon a big investor in our region already. I mean, quite frankly, they've spent billions of dollars in our region and have jobs all over Ohio now. And we deal with them every week, and we appreciate what they've already done, and quite frankly, their contributions to our economy already.
Oh yeah, they've made I don't know how many millions of square feet of warehouse space they have in the state, but it's in the millions, I think, isn't it?
Well, they have fulfillment centers that are fantastic and are great places to work for people. They have the second largest cloud presence that they have is in Central Ohio, outside of Northern Virginia, and they have wind farm, renewable energy facilities in the state. And they continue to add jobs, from Cincinnati to Cleveland. Central Ohio has been the beneficiary of a whole bunch of that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, again, it just reinforces what we're doing here, and the environment and the affordability and the central location and the talent and the value proposition that Columbus has.
Absolutely.
So, shifting gears now towards just Columbus, back to Columbus 2020 and its mission again. We all bought in. I bought into your pitch, early on, right? So I knew that. I just thought to myself, geez, we're not making it happen with some of the tools that were already there. Maybe, the government groups were not working together. They didn't have the resources really, because we were coming out of the Great Recession. Tax receipts were low. We had just major headwinds. And the private sector had to kind of stand up this organization and do their thing. So I know the partnership started, right? The Columbus Partnership is kind of the catalyst. and a lot of larger companies, even smaller companies like us, pitched in. If you had to pitch to those folks today, this movement is still alive and well, and they can join the movement and be involved in this and continue to push forward the effort. What would you say to those companies that maybe haven't done something yet, but you would encourage them to jump in now?
Well, I'd say there's no goal line in economic development, and you absolutely have to have a professional team working on this every day. I'll just say, in the 1990s, we created 138,000 net new jobs as a region. From 2000 to 2010, the net was 2,500 jobs, right? And we were having a pretty good decade until the recession hit. So it's very fragile. If you're not out working to grow your existing companies, small, medium, and large every day, and you're not, putting your hands on them and connecting people, and you're not going out around the world to get new business, it is no different than their own business or the banking business. That you're going to have success and failure. You've got to be putting new things in the pot all the time to grow our economy, and so we can't let up. In fact, we want more people on the team. We want more diversity on the team of perspective and thought around our 11 counties, from small business leaders, medium-sized business leaders, global business leaders that are enjoying a lot of public investment that we enjoy as well, from communities that want to build a sustainable tax base and maintain their services, and if not, get a lot better. So we need more people on the team, and there's no let up in this. I would just end by saying the way we view this effort is we're at the end of the beginning. That all we've done so far and all the success we've had has done nothing but, and this is quite an achievement actually, fuel greater ambition for the next 5 years or 10 years. I'm kind of excited as we kind of launch and try to decide what our 2030 goals are going to be. I suspect they're going to be even more bold, and we're going to need different players and new people to the community, and all of the same people that we had in the beginning to remain, kind of on the ship with us.
Yeah, so it's not too late to throw your shoulder against the wheel and join the Columbus 2020 March and have something to say with the 2030 March.
Absolutely.
Us early pioneers that joined the organization, we got to have input on what we wanted to do. And even our little community bank got to participate in that. And that was so enriching that we knew that our future was going to be bright because we were doing something about it. We just weren't letting it happen to us. We were offensively going out and taking over. The Bible says, I don't want to get all on my pulpit here, but the Bible says the meek shall inherit the earth. Well, the meek aren't the weak. The meek are the people that understand what they want and they go out and get it. And if anybody wants to look that up, they can, because that's really what that is all about. And they don't inherit physically the earth; they inherit the riches of the earth, and they will, they'll enjoy all those good graces that they've helped create through their involvement and being involved. Now, Kenny, you've been wildly successful in your career. Congratulations! You've really helped Columbus out. Thank goodness that you've been here and led this organization for the last 8 years. You've done a great job. We're blessed to have you here in Columbus. If you had to give some advice to young people, we do have a great pool of talent here in Central Ohio. I think there's something around 60 universities in our Central Ohio location. That's 60, folks. So a lot of folks are being educated here in either liberal arts colleges. Of course, Ohio State is probably the biggest by far, but all kinds of schools, vocational schools, you name it. There's a lot of education going on. And a lot of those students now are staying in Central Ohio because of the amenities, the affordability, the value, and the location that we have. So if you had to give those people advice in doing what you're doing, what would it be?
I'd say look, at your doorstep. You have some of the world's greatest companies in Central Ohio, whether that's Honda and the many suppliers that they have, or in the retail sector, L Brands and Shot and Scene stores and all the great companies and brands that they represent, Abercrombie and Express and all these people in that business. Unbelievable. If you're in logistics and global operations, you've got over 70 million square feet of great companies doing global business in the Rickenbacker area. Cardinal Health and J.P. Morgan, Chase, and all these people with major technology operations in our arena. You can not only start your career here, you can have a whole career here, and that means with lots of different types of companies, and you don't have to look elsewhere. Now, we know that we won't retain all of the students that graduate from the colleges and universities we have, and that's okay as well. We like Buckeyes to go out around the world and become leaders of companies, and then reinvest in our region in the future. So we're retaining a lot of these young people. We are the growth engine of Ohio, and without Central Ohio doesn't grow. So there's a huge responsibility in that, and so we get excited for the young people. And quite frankly, the best thing that we can do when we host a company is let them meet students and take them to Denison, and take them to Ohio Wesleyan, take them to Ohio State, Franklin, Capital, and let them wander around. They'll get more excited about our region again than any sales pitch that I could make to them. And those people, those kids, they're unbelievable. And they have unbelievable ambition to change the world in our region. They can do it from here.
So the advice is don't overlook your own doorstep.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's great advice. Now, I've asked you a ton of questions. Now it's your turn. You get to ask me whatever you'd like to ask me.
So
only one or two questions, sir. Just so.
So I want to know if you're seeing what we're seeing, that the tax reform that we've seen out of Washington is, if that's unleashing growth, and particularly in our small, medium-sized companies, and it's giving them a reason to accelerate their plans.
Yeah, actually, I do. I don't think people even realize how large the tax cut was to the economy and to America. I mean, it's the largest tax cut in my lifetime. Think about it this way: as a banker, I was very fortunate and blessed that Congress was able to do that, because it pretty much gave everybody their debt service on their loans. If you think about it, if you have just an immediate 14% cut off your obligation of after-tax costs, which is your tax liability, you simply have. That's just money right back in your pocket. And so now you couple that with the ability to reinvest and grow your business, and then catch up to where the rest of the city is. The capital restraints for companies are major when they have to pay such a high tax burden. So I think making that level playing field across the globe is one thing, but the mom and pop small businesses and medium-sized businesses, that's real money to them. I mean, it's just bottom line dollars.
Absolutely.
We're seeing them plan more and more for expansion, for retooling and updating things, because obviously when you're trying to make a profit, you're trying to make your banker happy, you can't put a new roof on, or you can't buy that other canning line you wanted, or you can't add this piece of technology because it's going to hurt upset the apple cart, as far as profitability goes, and your ability to borrow, and it's all connected. So giving people that breathing room is going to allow them. We've seen already people providing more benefits and infrastructure for their people. So whether it's adding paternity or maternity leave, whether it's tuition reimbursement, all those things, we're starting to see that climb, as well as the capital investment. Now I think we'll probably be in 18 be a little back end loaded. So I think people got to get past filing their returns here to figure it out. The accountants are just now figuring out what the law means, so they're catching up to it. But I think you'll see people with accelerated depreciation clauses and such in those in the legislation. That's really going to probably be a third and a fourth quarter add to GDP, maybe 0.4%, in my estimation.
Yeah, we've seen probably maybe 10% of our projects are using that as one of the rationale for their acceleration of their projects, and I agree with you that that's going to happen more so as the rules start getting figured out, and they know how that's going to impact their bottom line. The second question is we had Tom Peters in yesterday, and he gave us a reminder and a pep talk that it's all about the people and the culture in your company. And from the very beginning, I had a lot of respect for you and Heartland. Talk a little bit about, you have new headquarters. We have a thriving economy around you. how are you people thinking about the future of the Columbus region, and how's your culture feeding that?
Yeah, that's a great question. We treasure culture as almost it is the most important thing. So we have a very ethical culture here. Obviously, we're in banking. Our biggest risk is reputation risk, especially what happened 10 years ago. It's hard to believe that the economic disaster was 10 years ago or 11 years ago. But what we have done to create that culture is to take care of the most important portfolio, is our people portfolio. If we have happy associates inside the bank, we're going to have happy clients outside the bank. So our consistent way of coddling our folks, promoting from within, and myself, I'm started at the ground level, and now I'm running the bank. We've got my senior team is made up of mostly people that have learned the business here at Heartland. And so the rest of my team sees that. And they know that as the bank creates opportunity, they're going to want to jump on board as well. So the culture of a community and of a business is what really makes it tick. And that's the biggest thing that we've been blessed with, is great culture. And obviously the economy locally here has really met us in the middle. So our growth has been directly proportional to that culture growing, people believing in community banking again. And I'll have to say that the economic disaster actually helped us and actually brought the public back down to reality about what the financial services markets are about, and the fact that there's big banks and there's small banks and there's people, in the middle. And we need all kinds, but when the rubber meets the road, you got to be able to count on your bank, and we were there for our customers, and that's helped us out.
Well, we appreciate all the investment in the community. You see it every day, and you see the brand not just on your branches, but you see it, on community activities, and you see your associates in the community on any kind of community effort. So we couldn't have the kind of community we have without that kind of company operating here.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate it. But that's what we're all about. We have fun doing it, though, too, just like we have fun doing this podcast today. Kenny, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you.
I really appreciate all the things that you've done for Columbus. We're really blessed to have you here. Appreciate your leadership at Columbus 2020, and thanks for driving the bus.
Likewise.